decks like junk. It's hard to beat counter spells, but decks that are playing to the board, you can usually sculpt a pretty good game plan against.
Temple of Mal is going to start things off here along with a copy of Mana Confluence, so kind of actually hiding the fact that it was a burn deck against Harris, who was playing blue-white-red control, very close to what Christopher O'Brien played last weekend in honor of Tomohiro Saito. You've got the main deck Karanos, got a Storms, and some other cool things going on here. A Counterflux in the main deck. I'm looking for the Firemind's Foresight, and I don't think I see it.
Oh, come on, man.
I'm disappointed.
That's the reason to play the deck.
Yeah, I don't know why you would play it otherwise, as here comes the Chandra's Phoenix, a Temple of Triumph here from Harris. I think he's got a better idea of what he's up against now, Patrick.
Things were concealed for a little bit, but last turn to play a Mutavault and Chandra's Phoenix. Now we know what's up.
Let's not forget about the Nug-You with the Lightning Strike.
Oh, sure.
Show him who's in charge, as here comes the Phoenix again for 2 more. Gonna put Harris down to 13. Butler, by not playing land, basically implying I have a whole bunch of spells, so you're in trouble.
Wasn't even willing to fire up the Mutavault.
No.
I mean, that's pretty impressive there.
This is a Plains, and this is Jace. How do you feel about Jace against Burn? Good, bad?
It's good.
That's actually good?
It's good.
Okay. The possibility seems okay. The drawing of cards, you know, it's just a lot to do. You know, you're using your 4th turn to deploy a Planeswalker, so you would hope that it'd be pretty good in this situation.
I mean, at the minimum, you get to look at some cards, and there's some draws that the burn deck gets that are actually oddly creature heavy, and Jace is very powerful in those games as well.
Butler firing up the Mutavault, going to attack there for 2 as opposed to 4 because of the Jace -1/-0 trigger for attackers. So Harris goes down to 11. Going to play a Temple of Enlightenment here. A little scry action, going to leave that card on top, and we'll see what he wants to do with the Jace. You also see a copy of Turn and Burn in his hand.
It is, you know, actually important for the blue-white control decks in these matchups to find card drawing spells and be able to cast them, because you need counter spells to stop the burn deck from just killing you in the first game. So Jace is not bad.
Jace going to tick on up to 6. Verdict going to take care of the Phoenix. Let's see what Butler can do here. A player with an invitational top 8 many moons ago when we were in Richmond. Also an Open Series Legacy win in Nashville back in 2010. Just going to pass the turn back over to Harris, who draws an island for the turn.
If Jessie is planning on using a burn spell here, I would have preferred to do it on the main phase while Dylan is tapped out.
While the shields are down.
Yep. Because if your War Leader's Helix here gets hit with a counter spell, that is pretty rough.
How about an Elspeth? That's going to come join the party here. Harris playing more as a tap-out control deck at this point. Going to put 3 soldier tokens into play, looking to try to close this game out pretty quickly.
Now, as opposed to Jace, Elspeth is fairly bad against burn. It's a slow way to win the game. It turns on Searing Bloods if those happen to be in your opponent's hand, so.
Warrior's Helix going to go upstairs. Butler going to gain 4 and deal 4. Going to get his Phoenix back. It looks like he says, okay, don't forget, I'm going to get this back to my hand. You see the soldier tokens, brand new ones from our IQ program. If you guys don't have IQs in your local stores yet, bug your store owner. That's how we have these sweet penguin pins on as well.
Yep.
Temple of Silence going to come into play. Boros Charm is what Butler is looking at. He keeps that on top very quickly.
No.
Just going to pass the turn back yet again. Skullcrack at the ready. 8th filling the draw here for Harris. I bet Shihoyim wishes he had one of those last round.
Yes. Anything to win a little bit faster.
Yeah, an attack here for 3 is going to put Butler down to 18. Harris going to play a Temple of Enlightenment, little scry action. He likes what he sees. He keeps it on top. And Jace going to tick up to 8, kind of threatening an ultimate here. And the ultimate here with Jace is actually pretty good, because if he finds a War Leader's Helix, he'd be thrilled.
Yes.
Yeah. Pass the turn back. Lightning Strike. We're going upstairs. That's good to go. That's going to put Harris down to 4. And you see Butler's got to be really happy. Here's a Boros Charm off the top with a Skullcrack at the ready for the Sphinx's revelation. And he says, I'm targeting you.
I don't think that he's giving his permanents indestructible this turn. Sorry, Dylan.
A timely counterflux is going to take care of that. So, Boros Charm, I am sorry. I've got some bad news. Now, how do we feel about the timing of that Boros Charm?
It was not great.
What would you like to see otherwise?
Probably played on the upkeep.
Got an attack here for 6. Butler going to go down to 12. Jace is actually going to get used here. The ultimate. Looked like that was the plan for Harris the whole time. Going to go through the deck here. You see him stop a War Leader's Helix. Hard to pass that one up.
And now he has the ability to chain together multiple life gain spells in this sequence as well.
So there's a War Leader's Helix. Don't forget, Dylan gets to go through his deck as well. Going to allow Jessie to shuffle his own deck. We'll see what Dylan wants to find. I like this blue-white-red control deck. I want this to be a thing.
Yep. I bet that he would actually go and get his, maybe would actually get his elixir here if he hadn't drawn it.
He's got his own War Leader's Helix
Yeah.
in his deck that he can go find too.
Oh.
It's a one of, or a fun of, as they say. It looks like he's going to go with a Jace.
That's less fun.
Yeah, I agree. Boo. So a Planeswalker and a War Leader's Helix here for Dylan Harris. Don't forget, these are cards that are cast from Jace. So he's going to start by casting the War Leader's Helix. And Butler says, I'd like to attempt to cast a Skullcrack if that's okay with you. And even though we have an ultimated Jace, we might still see Dylan Harris lose this game, which is crazy to think about.
Well, if he's not responding with the Sphinx's Revelation, he's I mean, he can play Elixir and try to use the Elixir on Jesse's turn, but he's suddenly opening himself up to all sorts of trouble here.
Yeah. There's 3 more soldiers for Elspeth, so that can threaten the ultimate next turn. I'd hate to lose if I ultimated a Jace. This is going to go up to 5. This is an Elixir. That puts Harris essentially at 6. Don't use it now, though. Skullcrack already happened. Just has to pass the turn back. And there's a War Leader's Helix in response to, it looks like, the Elixir activation.
Wow.
My goodness. Jessie Butler wins game number 1 over Dylan Harris. Red, white, burn up a game of blue-white control. He can barely believe he won.
He stole that one.
Yeah.
That was a robbery right there.
We're going to move on to the sideboards here. Dylan Harris's blue-red control deck. I've got that in front of me. A Planner Cleansing, a Deicide, a Blind Obedience, a Fiendslayer Paladin, 2 Celestial Flares, a Glare of Heresy, a Counterflux, a Render Silent, a Dispel, a Negate, and then 4 copies of Stormbreath Dragon. I think it's pretty straightforward stuff here, honestly. I love Dispel. I love Negate. Counterflux and Render Silent seem like a little too expensive for me.
No, I think all the counters are good.
You like them all?
All counter spells are good here. 3 mana or less, I'll take them all.
Then there's, 2 Celestial Flares, which can take care of some of the creatures here. Mutavault, Chantress Phoenix. I'm not in love with those in this situation. Love the Fiendslayer Paladin. Love the copy of Blind Obedience. That's really about it for me. I think the cards he's boarding in are quite good, though.
Yeah, he has a lot of powerful options here. He can cut some of his cards like Supreme Verdict. Maybe he doesn't want to lose all 4 of them, but his Aetherlink, he doesn't necessarily need that. Get rid of some of his less efficient tools, become a little more streamlined. Once you resolve a big Revelation, you can take over the game any number of ways from there. Doesn't really matter what you win the game with from that spot. On Jesse's side, a Mizium Mortars, a Wear Tear, a Satyr Fire Dancer. He has 3 in the main deck and then the 4th one on the board. A Burning Earth, a Chain of the Rocks, 2 Wing of the Gods, 4 Fire Drinker Satyr, and 4 Toil and Trouble. So Jesse with a real sideboard for the matchup. He gets to bring in Fire Drinker Satyr and his copies of Toil and Trouble and his copy of Burning Earth, if he would like to, and remove some of the creature-specific cards like his 4 copies of Searing Blood, his 2 Chain of the Rocks, and his 3 Satyr Fire Dancers. So a really good sideboard for Jesse, upgrading quite a bit in this matchup.
Just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, Star City Games Open Series here in Knoxville, Tennessee. At SCG Live, hashtag SCGKNOX for your tweets, or you can just tweet us personally, as we are able to check them here. Got my iPad in front of me. People wondering, Patrick, what is your favorite type of donut?
Glazed.
That's
glazed.
my answer.
Vanilla cream if I had to get fancy.
I've seen you get fancy before.
The thing is, when every Sunday, me and my folks would go run some errands, go grocery shopping, go get a box of donuts. I remember the vanilla cream ones from Dunkin' Donuts just being the blades. And I used to have, 2, maybe 3 if I was feeling frisky. When I was, 8,
Dealing on donuts.
8 or 9 years old. And recently I tried having one of those and could not even get through half of one before I thought that I was going to throw up. So there could be some nostalgia working there to influence my opinion, but I did like the vanilla creams once upon a time.
Are you a Dunkin' or a Krispy Kreme?
Dunkin', obviously.
Attaboy. Attaboy. I think it's like an East Coast thing, honestly.
It is.
Yeah. I think I've heard that there are some Dunkins on the West Coast now. Los Angeles area?
They're coming to California allegedly in 2015, I believe, is the ad that I saw. So.
Big move for you.
Well, there is a reasonable chance that I quit doing this to open up a Dunkin' Donuts franchise.
That is smart.
That is,
I do like that.
Me too.
I would support you. As for myself,
You can come by and get free donuts anytime you want.
you would do that for me?
I would.
Wow.
I would.
That is, you are like a brother. That is really nice of you. I actually only like glazed donuts. I think every other donut is disgusting. Any donuts filled with anything are gross.
I like a Boston cream on occasion.
That's
I mean,
gross.
I can get down on that stuff, but by and large, I prefer the glazed. Why is that answer even surprising to you? I bring up all the time. You make fun of me for everything bagel and cream cheese and black coffee and things without dressing on it. And
Well, I don't know. Like, you like an everything bagel. Like, you could just have a plain bagel, but you like an everything bagel. I think there's a chance you might like an everything donut.
They don't make everything donuts.
You know, there's some donuts with a bunch of crap on them.
That's true.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's in your range, along with just a very black coffee.
Speaking of which, have you been to Voodoo Donuts in Portland?
I have.
Those are donuts with a lot of crap on top.
They're horrible. There are donuts there that have bacon on them, and it's just unnecessary garbage on top of a donut.
It's trying too hard.
I've heard a lot of people like them, and that's cool, but I'm more of a traditionalist, especially when it comes to donuts. So I actually don't really even like donuts that much. They're a lot to handle. I think it's funny you brought that up. Like, when you're a kid, you'll just shove anything in your face.
Yep.
You know, just give me all that candy, all those donuts. Doesn't matter what's on them or in them. Now that I'm old and weathered, I just want a normal glazed donut. I only want, like, one at the most, maybe half of one.
And that's still a lot. That's still quite a bit.
Yeah. It's not good news. So, yeah, for you guys wondering about donuts, there you go. Boom.
Boom.
Chocolate donuts suck, though. I don't know how anyone does that. Those are not good.
They are heinous.
Yeah, those are just unacceptably bad. Dylan Harris going to start things off here in game number 2. Looked like he should have won game number 1. Some untimely missteps from him.
I think there was some sequencing that both players could have executed a little bit better in that game.
Yeah, you and me both. As we are underway in game number 2 here, just a mountain from Butler. Red, white, burn. People wondering if this is still a thing. It looks to be the case. Doing really well thus far in Knoxville. You see Harris with a Temple of Triumph. A little scry action here in the opening turns. Picks up a copy of Sphinx's Revelation. I think that one's worth keeping on top. This scry is going to put a card to the bottom. Butler with a Magma Jet. Harris down to 18.
Magma Jet's really important to this deck. It's so sensitive to drawing its lands on time. Finding what white mana isn't always the easiest thing to do, and you can't flood out either, so scrying fills all those roles.
This is fun. It's trying too hard could be the motto for the entire city of Portland.
I was really going to make that joke and then pump the brakes on it, but I'm glad that someone brought that up.
That's right. The name there, of course, is Andy Hates You. Yeah. That's a good Twitter handle for a beat like that.
Yep.
On an entire city, no less.
We agree.
Phoenix comes across in the air for 2. Harris down to 16.
Voodoo Donuts is the tight jeans and handlebar mustache of donut shops. So, we agree.
See Harris with the land here. Going to play a Supreme Verdict, trading 1 for 1. You got to be happy with Butler if you're that, to see that exchange.
Especially if it's Chandra's Phoenix. I mean, that's coming right back.
Here's a Sacred Founder going to come into play tapped. Give me another Phoenix in for 2. Mana Confluence dealing a little bit of damage here to Butler, but that's not going to matter too much. Harris going to go down to 14. Dylan will untap. He's going to take a draw here. It's a copy of Sphinx's Revelation. 2 of those in his hand. If he can get to a point where he can start resolving those, life is pretty good, but Butler's going to try to make sure that doesn't happen.
And it's tough with Dylan already falling behind here a little bit. The game's likely going to land in the spot where even if Dylan is able to start resolving Sphinx's Revelations, he's going to have to do it into Skull Cracks. He's not going to have enough mana to set up, negate or counterflux or any of that stuff. He's just going to have to play it and hope it's good.
Big play there from Dylan, though. Blind Obedience could really change things in this game. Butler going to come across for 2 in the air with the Phoenix, put Harris down to 12 and simply pass the turn back. But, that Phoenix that was in the graveyard, that one's not going to play much of a role now. And Blind Obedience, incremental life gain, could really change this game.
And that's the right word to use there. It's not, beating Burn with just one big life gain spell, sometimes that works, but you're playing right into Skullcrack. When you have Blind Obedience, you just get these small triggers along the way that help keep your head above water.
Up to 13 goes Harris. Here's a Magma Jet from Butler. Time to get his scry on. Phoenix going to go back here, but Phoenix not going to play a big role now due to the Blind Obedience. You see Fire Drinker Satyr. That card's going to go to the bottom. Butler keeping a card on top. Harris at 11. Let's see if Butler's got another spell to fire off here. It's a Lightning Strike. Harris down to 8.
It's not that Phoenix is actively bad now, but a lot of its impact has been blunted by this Blind Obedience.
So if it's double Boros Charm, it's lights out. And you see a Boros Charm already in Butler's hand. So does he have another one on top of the deck? Take a draw. This is a War Leader's Helix. That is a Phoenix. That comes into play tapped. Just simply going to pass the turn back. Will Jessie over to Dylan, who will take a draw. It's a copy of Dissolve. And you see not one, not two, but 3 Sphinx's Revelations in Dylan Harris's hand. He's going to cast one right now so he doesn't get skull cracked.
This is good timing here from Dylan, although it's still, as good as this is, he's still in a pretty harrowing spot. He's going to take at least 2 this turn, and Jessie's hand is loaded with action. We know this because he's missing land traps.
Scryland's going to come in. Top card's going to stay on top as Butler's going to draw. Fire Turn Crusader comes rolling off the top. Not so good right now. Fantastic card to sideboard in, however.
I'm actually not sure it's even going to be bad this game. If Dylan's plan here is to play Supreme Bird next turn, this Boros Charm suddenly gets turned on. So
okay.
This, for a turn 7 or 8 Fire Turn Crusader, this one has potential to be pretty reasonable here.
Do you think this has anything to do with your love for Fire Turn Crusader?
A little bit.
Okay.
That's definitely an influencing factor, yes.
Harris going to draw a card right now.
What do you want me to do, lie to you?
I would hate for that to happen.
Okay.
I want only honesty in the booth.
Okay.
See a Jace right now in Harris's hand as well. A lot of options. Again, 2 more copies of Sphinx's Revelation, but you have to tread so lightly because you're so afraid of Skullcrack the entire time.
It is challenging to play, and that's why ideally Dylan would like to try to chain together smaller spells that would allow him to trigger Blind Obedience, give himself a little bit of breathing space.
Here's D-Sphere with an Extort trigger. That's going to come in. Fire Turn Crusader is going to bite the dust. Harris going to go up to 10, Butler down to 15.
And that's the kind of play that Dylan's really in the market for here. Blunt the board and gain a little bit of life along the way.
Lightning Strike, we're going upstairs. That's going to resolve. Harris going to go down to 7. Whittling away as you see the Dissolve there in Dylan Harris's hand. When is he going to use it is the question. Butler going to come across here for 2. Would love to come with a Fire Turn Crusader, but that thing is in detention as Harris goes down to 5. Butler with a Mountain passes the turn back over to Harris, who untaps that massive lands, takes a draw. It's a copy of Dispel. That might be the check mark.
That's a huge, huge draw here.
The fact that he can play a counterspell for 1 mana and extort with another one, that's really, really big.
Yeah. Doesn't even have to play into Skullcrack anymore. He can say just play Jace and extort, dissolve and extort again, and then resolve a large revelation after the fact.
See how Harris wants to shred here. Some real decisions being made. You have to believe he's got the tools to get the job done right now when you take a look at his hand. 2 revs over there, the Jace, the Dissolve, and the Dispel. It's an enviable position to be in.
But if he does misstep here, he can die.
And we saw that happen in game 1.
This is by no means a lock.
That's a lot of mana. That's a Sphinx's Revelation right now. Looks like for 4. This is a War Leader's Helix in response.
Ooh.
Yikes.
That seems like it's got to be worth a... That's got to be worth a Dispel.
I would think so, but he does not dispel it, so he's going to get the 4 life back. Going to go up to 5. He's walking a mighty thin line.
Oh, yeah.
Going to play a Temple of Epiphany. Going to scry here. If Butler picks up a burn spell, it's basically over. Butler draws his card. It's a Mutavault. That's not what he was looking for. Going to attack here for 2, put Harris down. This is a Boros Charm, but Harris does have the Dispel at the ready to counter this. 1 mana is all it takes to get rid of that Boros Charm as Dylan Harris is at 3 life.
Counter spells are so good against burn. Hard to overstate it. And you have to know that Jessie has nothing at this point.
Yeah, if he had something, you'd be dead.
Right.
Straight up. If he had Skullcrack, you'd be dead. So you know that your Revelation is clear for takeoff. And you don't even have to cast it on your own turn. You can cast it on his upkeep so you don't have to discard.
Well, the worry here is there is the outside shot of something like Toil Trouble being in Jessie's deck post-board.
All right.
I would prefer to go down the same thing I suggested before with Dylan, is just try to cast your spells and get extort triggers out of this Blind Obedience and hold up a counter spell if you can. Tapping out is a risk.
See Jace with an extort trigger here. Chris Van Meter walking up with the slip right now. Again, he has 2 losses, but he's grinding away, trying to get some more Open Series points. Looks like he's moved on to 5 and 2 as Jace does tick up here. Harris at 4. Butler, his life total, not all that relevant right now at 18. Harris is just trying not to die. Looks like Sacred Foundry is going to come into play tapped here. Going to pass the turn back over to Butler, who will take a draw. This is an activation of Mutavault. We're coming into the red zone. This is a lethal attack, but those Jace triggers will make sure that's actually not the case. As long as he does remember his Jace triggers, of course.
But is he willing to tap out here to cast something, or is he just going to take these 2 points of damage?
Tough to say. You see Butler's hand, however, he's on empty. Chain to the Rocks, along with the Mana Confluence. A little surprised to see Chain to the Rocks in his deck after sideboard.
Sometimes these decks need to keep in some copy of Chain of the Rocks as a hedge against something like Bramaz, Fiendslayer, Paladin, Archangel Thune. I think that given how long this game has gone on for, that Jessie will remove it if there's a game 3. He's just seen enough of Dylan's deck at this point. And Dylan's had multiple spots where landing something like a Fiendslayer, Paladin, a Bramaz, or an Archangel would have been good for him. I think you can safely assume that his deck is largely creatureless.
Jace Architecture thought the draw there for Harris. Already has one of those in play, of course, so probably doesn't need the backup copy. Gonna tap a bunch of mana right now, though, 7 to be exact. This looks like it's gonna be a Revelation for 4.
Just trying to give himself a bit of a cushion here.
So you dissolve an island, a Temple of Enlightenment, and a Steam Vents the draw there for Harris. He's gonna take his Jace up to 6. A Temple gonna come on down. It's time to scry. That card's going, looks like probably to the bottom, but we'll consult the grip before making a decision.
Yeah, and now with the amount of mana that Dylan has, he should be able to play this game very cautiously going forward, where he just adds to his board and is able to hold up this counterspell the whole way through.
Feels like he's living on easy street right now.
Yeah, there were some harrowing turns.
Absolutely.
But I believe he's in the clear now.
Phoenix going to come across for 1. Harris going to go down to 6. Butler with a Temple of Malice going to leave that card on top. You see Harris with Dissolve at the ready. He does have 3 mana. Now he's got a lot more than that as he does untap those 8 lands. Take a draw. It's the Singleton Warleader's Helix in his deck. He's going to pay 2. This is an Elixir of Immortality with an Extort trigger, and that might be the one that wraps it up, as this is basically 6 life.
Yes. And Dylan still has the option of just plussing his Jace, playing Elspeth and triggering it again, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just has to be careful not to tap too low and get himself randomly killed by something like Toil and Trouble.
Yep. Going to go up to 12. Will Harris going to shuffle all these cards back in. My mistake, it was not a Warleader's Helix. Actually, just was Elixir of Immortality. That was the draw for Dylan. So no Warleader's Helix hanging out in his hand, but he's got plenty of other options. The most important probably being the Dissolve. And also getting a shuffle in 3 copies of Sphinx's Revelation here is not so bad.
And once he goes ultimate with this Jace, I mean, that's gonna be the ball game.
Well, it wasn't last time. We'll hope it is this time.
Well, Dylan has a lot more breathing space than last time.
Yeah. Gonna take this Jace up to 7. Bunch of mana gonna get tapped here. It's safe to tap out, in my opinion. You can get an Elspeth out there. And it looks like he's going to.
It is not safe to tap out. If Jessie draws Toil and Trouble, it just kills him. He just fuses it, and it's... Oh, I guess it's not even... I guess
he's sitting at 12?
12, so he goes... Oh, he's going up to 13. Never mind. So it's 4 plus the Phoenix is 5 plus... I don't know. It's actually still pretty close. I mean, maybe it's not exactly lethal, but... We'll find out.
Well, okay, well, here's Toil Trouble. So he did not have that card when this turn started, but he drew it. So we're going to bring that up for you guys so you can see it because we're fusing it. Target player draws 2 cards, loses 2 life, and then damage dealt. And then there are cards in that player's hand. So that's a bunch of damage.
Oh, he's
okay. So he's toiling himself and troubling the opponent.
He's giving Dylan a little bit, a taste of both of it.
And he actually drew another copy of Toil Trouble. All right, all right.
All right, well, now I guarantee you Dylan's not tapping out with that Dissolve.
No, I would not do that. I would not do that. Hollow Fountain picked up here for Mr. Harris. Gonna take his Jace up to 8. Elspeth up to 6.
I mean, that would have been that's another 4 points of damage if the black half goes to Dylan, so he would have gone to 3 there. So you know, Dylan may have thought he was a lot more safe than he actually was.
And Dylan has 2 copies of Dissolve in his hand right now, so if I'm Dylan, no more spells. I'm leaving up 2 Dissolves. As that was very scary. Butler's deck looks a lot like Wilkerson's earlier.
Yeah, a little bit.
With the Temple of Silence and the Temple of Malice.
It is a giveaway, yeah. He's playing one of each Scrylands. And the Mana Confluences help with fusing as well.
Gonna pass the turn back after playing a second copy of Mana Confluence. One thing you have to keep in mind here, Butler's had that Chain of the Rocks in his hand the entire game, and as you mentioned, chances are probably gonna board that out.
Especially when he was 1 spell short of winning this game at several points.
Here's our Warriors. We're going upstairs. That's going to do it for this game. Dylan Harris does win game number 2 over Jessie Butler. Blue-white-red control ties it up against red-white burn as we'll move to a 3rd and final one. You're going to watch Butler here, see if he does move towards the sideboard and get the Chain to the Rocks out of his deck.
Yeah, there's 2 in the main deck and 1 in the board. He does have some very easy cuts here if he assumes that Dylan is creatureless or very close to it. You're going to remove the 2 copies of Chain of the Rocks, the 4 Searing Bloods, and 3 Satyr Fire Dancers. That gives him 9 slots, and with 4 copies of Toil and Trouble, 4 Fire Drinker Satyrs, and a Burning Earth, he has a very easy 9 cards to bring in. He also has a Wear Tear in his sideboard. I'm not sure how much he really cares about Detention Sphere and so forth, but he can bring in to fight that stuff as well.
Over 7,000 viewers right now hanging out, watching Dylan Harris and Jessie Butler play Magic. We appreciate you guys watching at home. Having a blast here in Knoxville, Evan Irwin's home city. We saw him in round number 1. He's still duking it out. We've got Eric Rill, Joe Lissette, Chris Van Meter, a lot of other awesome players here in attendance in Knoxville, just doing it out over what is basically graduation and Mother's Day weekend. So
I'm not sure if Evan, I saw Evan, I believe, in a side draft. So
Oh, he's still duking it out.
Yeah, well, there's an implication there that duking it out in the Standard Open, which is where we saw him earlier.
We did see him there earlier.
Right, you understand that I'm, whatever.
Clarification is key. I understand what you're doing.
The implication of your statement is Evan Irwin is still competing in the tournament. I was just trying to clarify for the viewers that is not the case, at least to the best of my knowledge.
He's competing in a tournament.
Yes.
In this convention center.
Correct.
That's all that we are sure of.
Right,
we don't know which one.
Given the context, it was, your initial statement was a little bit misleading.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm basically done.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And we're not fighting.
No, we're not fighting.
Okay. We're still okay.
We're still friends. I'm
okay,
not
great.
saying
Perfect.
Not trying to imply that it's something like
friends
that.
Friends are strong. Friends are strong. Easy.
Contemporaries.
We are
acquaintances.
We're acquaintances. Yeah. We have to get along because that's what they force us to do.
Acquaintances / roommates, basically.
On the weekends.
On the weekends. We're weekend roommates.
You snore, but I tolerate it.
Oh, you want to talk about snoring?
I didn't say that.
I would be careful about bringing that one up.
I didn't say that. I just said that you snore.
I'd be really careful about bringing that up in lieu of yesterday evening.
It's mostly heavy breathing. I wouldn't call it snoring.
That was not heavy breathing.
I would not call it snoring, but I'm also not sure.
All right. You're going to have to secretly record this now.
Game number 3 about to be underway here between Butler and Harris. I think this is advantage burn, right?
On the play, I think Jessie's got a real sideboard for the matchup is the thing. The 4 Toil and Trouble, the 4 Fire Drinker Satyr, and the Burning Earth and being able to cut 9 below average cards, I think Jessie improves pretty substantially. More so than Dylan.
Yeah, I think Dylan has some good cards to bring in. You mentioned the counter spells, Dispel, Negate. Dispel was huge last game. Negate, obviously, really good. Counterflux, Render Silent if you're into 3-mana counter spells, which I know you are. The Fiendsayer Paladin, the Blind Obedience. Definitely got some nice cards to bring in here. But I think that Jessie's deck gets really lean and mean after sideboard.
And it's possible Dylan doesn't want all the counters on the draw, especially when his opponent's just shown Fire Drinker Satyr. He can't get away from his anti-creature elements altogether because he can just die to a turn 1 Fire Drinker Satyr.
Decisions. We'll see what happens. Beautiful to start things off. That's kind of telling.
Means he doesn't have anything. He wants to get in on turn 2.
Yeah, I guess he just wants to give the beatdowns. This is a temple. Take a draw. In for 2 we go. I guess if Beautiful can deal 4, it's like a win.
It's a huge win.
See if Harris wants to play a land that can come and play on tap. Maybe bluff a card like Azorius Charm Return Burn. And he is going to take 2. Wow.
Another win for Jessie.
Yeah, that's 2 wins in a row. This is a Blind Obedience. That's a win for Dylan. How is it that everyone who has Swine Obedience, they always play it on turn 2?
Well, that's the turn you want to cast.
But
it,
they only
so.
have one.
I know.
But it's just awesome that they always have it on time. I've been part of this. I've done it before.
You want to cast it, and then you don't want to draw another one.
Yeah.
So you play one, and then you have it on turn 2. That's how it works.
Dodgers Phoenix, slow down, comes into play tapped.
I don't really know what we're talking about here. That's the point.
Don't they ever just draw it on turn 200?
No. Is Dylan contemplating taking another hit from these Ravnica duels?
Yikes. Yeah, I don't think you can do that. Just have to play it tapped. Pass the turn back with a Syncopate at the ready. You see Butler does have a copy of Toil Trouble in his hand. There's a Sacred Founder as well. That's coming to play untapped. We're going to fire that bad boy off, or are we going to attack with Mutavault? How about Mutavault? Red Zone, in for 4.
And that's the turn where Dylan really needs something like Last Breath or a removal spell or an Azorius Charm or something.
Yeah.
That big hit right there is going to put him under some major strain for the rest of the game here.
You see the way he has to play off curve. Here's a Detention Sphere. On the Phoenix, Butler going to consult his hand, says that's okay. Boros Charm going upstairs potentially. Could catch Wear and Tear here.
Oh, Wear and Tear is really nice.
Going to start with the Boros Charm. Going to put Harris down to 8. This looks like a very hard game for Dylan to win.
If he's not even bothering to blow up one of the enchantments at the end of the turn, it means he's probably gotten very close to lethal as it is.
There's a Mutavault. Going to fire up this Mutavault. Going to come across for 2. Doesn't even care about the D-Sphere. Puts him down to 6. Is this a Toil? My goodness.
Oh.
Take it right in the face. Puts him down to 1. Passes the turn back. Has to try to beat 2 Mutavaults. You saw him draw Dissolve. He doesn't have a 5th land. Looking at a bunch of copies of Sphinx Revelation. With this burn deck, a deck that we weren't sure how good it was going to be moving forward, it looks like one of the decks to beat this weekend. Harris going to drop the hand and extend the other one. Jessie Butler wins this match 2-1. Red-White Burn moving on to 6-1 here in Knoxville.
And his sideboard, his setup post board is really good. Jessie just has a very good matchup, especially when he was on the play. Didn't even have Fire Drink Crusader, but if he had that on turn 1, the game would have been a total runaway.
Yeah. I think the nice thing about Burn is that we always talk about